All right, so we are live. Okay, a very warm good afternoon to all of you. I really want to take this opportunity to say thank you to Jodie and Sahir for taking time this for the panel discussion today. And I would like with a formal introduction of our panelists this morning. Uh, we have Jodie Kovler. She's the president of sales at 525 America. Jodie has 20 experience across merchandising and retail. Jodie is a successful leader in both sales, design, and development for branded and private label in fashion. Uh, Jodie is a big admirer of Michelle Obama, and she has led sales for North America, Canada, and Jodie has worked it's really hard to kind of turn around brands and has done tremendous work in rebuilding relationship with some partners to grow her business. Jodie, welcome to the panel discussion.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Uh, the next we have Sahir Zaveri. Sahir, welcome to the panel discussion. Sahir is the co-founder and CEO at KingChildren. Sahir has introduced PD10, which is a collection of path-breaking zero-waste eyewear in partnership with Paulo Dybala, Italian football player. Uh, Sahir is supported by Rhode Island School of Design in creating sustainable zero-waste eyewear through mass customization. And Zahir University. Welcome, Sahir. Session.
Thanks so much.
Wonderful. So before we begin, I tried to kind of summarize your introduction, but I would love to kind of hear from your end uh, uh, something that is unique that you are currently doing and something about your company. Let me start with Jodie to begin with.
Thank you. This is really, it's nice. It's an honor to be a part of this. It's nice to a little break up in the day.
Yeah.
So the 525 America is owned by a larger company. We are a China US based organization called NYC Alliance. And what is really special about us is that we are a vertical company.
Mhm.
So we are straight to the factory. We work directly with the factory. There is no middle person, and we work as teams. Was actually on a call this morning with China,
Mhm.
and we are really forging forward in a world right now in fashion that is unsettled.
Okay.
And our company, our leader, took a stand at the beginning of the pandemic and said, we want to be there for our partners when business opens up, as opposed to stopping business.
Right.
And we really kept going, and it is paying off for us.
Wow.
Our sales are very strong. Of course, not where we expected them to be at this point for the year, but we definitely feel that taking the aggressive approach and moving forward has been successful for us as a company.
Mhm.
So we are able to fulfill orders when other brands are not.
Mhm.
We are able to ship on time when other brands are not, and it has definitely proved to be a positive outcome so far.
Wow, that's like okay. So a great strategic partnership, and you work with your manufacturers as team, which is
Yes,
commendable. And that's really a, I think that's a great way to kind of build foundation for the business. Commendable, amazing, Jody.
thank you.
Sahir, coming back to you, if you can share some more light on what you're doing and the sustainability thing that you have incorporated in your business.
Yeah, absolutely. So at KingChildren, what we're doing is we're building a platform to change how we conceptualize, design, and produce the products that we buy. My personal background is, deeply in the manufacturing space, combined with a lot of focus on advanced manufacturing technology. And we started out with the basic question of, is there a better way for us to design our supply chains and design, the entire model that fuels the fashion and accessories business as it stands today.
Mhm.
And with that kind of context, what we have done is we've built out a zero waste supply chain. We are, the first truly zero waste supply chain. And for us, being a zero waste supply chain combines, a couple very important things. The first is every single item that we make is made without waste. We have a patented technology that we've developed that allows us to produce, eyewear as a starting point without any waste. And then the second is having a zero inventory model, which means that everything is made on demand. We view this as being a paradigm shift in how products are going to be made in the future. We view the current situation with regards to how supply chains work as being, unsustainable for the planet, but also something that has room to grow in terms of delivering people exactly what they want. And we've been very focused on this. We've spent years doing research and development on this. We've brought into the fold industry experts. Our head of design is considered one of the top leaders in the eyewear industry. She headed up Marchand Eyewear, VSP Global's eyewear design and product development for 15 years. And prior to that was with Luxottica and Safilo. And so our approach is really melding, cutting edge technology with industry best practices and depth of understanding to start off with in the eyewear industry. And our model is basically predicated on partnerships. So we have a first major product line that you touched on briefly, which is a partnership with Argentinian soccer star Paulo Dybala. So that's really a kind of showcase of what we can do, who we are, and what's to come in the future. We are in the process of rolling out additional partnerships in the near future. So there's going to be exciting stuff ahead of us. But for us, it all comes down to completely redesigning the supply chain and completely redesigning the way that, a product goes from being conceptualized by a business to coming into a consumer's hands on one end, and on the other end, changing how a consumer experiences a product to create an experience that is special, that's really designed around the consumer. And so trying to kind of meld, a truly empathetic approach towards product development with technology that allows us to change the way that we do things.
Wow, excellent. I believe so. Both of you have a very, very strong purpose and in laid down the foundation of your business, and which really I think is going to be a game. And having said that, move to the next question, which is, while you started your business, there must have been numerous challenges, starting with human resource or supply chain or whatnot. There can be a number. What is that one challenge that kind of taught you or give you an experience or a lesson in making sure that you have a very strong foundation? What is that one particular challenge that you faced in the very, very beginning of your business? Anybody can answer?
Well, I didn't hear who you chose, but I'm happy to jump in. So one of the interesting thing about our brand is that it was a privately owned company up until about 5 years ago. And when NYC Alliance purchased it, I was part of the original team and I came on board. And to me, the biggest challenge was the perceived value of the product and the level of expectation that a customer has, right? From the buyer to the consumer. There is a value that they want to see in a product that they're buying. They want to understand that their money is going to be well spent. And that to me was one of the biggest challenges, and we've done a very good job. It didn't happen overnight, but I always go back to what is the level of expectation that the customer wants for the quality that he or she is receiving, and for the price that they are willing to pay.
Wow. Uh, I must say that that's a great point that you shared there. So you are keeping the consumers at the center point, like the whole
Hmm.
thing, the whole kind of woven around how the consumers are perceiving your brand and having all those uh, like how you're finding a right balance between the stakeholders at different stages, right from
Hmm.
the manufacturer until it consumer. Commendable, great. Uh, Sahir, about this unique thing that you have done with the Italian football player and this zero waste thing, how you are bringing sustainability into your business model is amazing. And can you shed some light into how an which is kind of running traditionally, how they can bring sustainable practices into their business model? Like there are technologies that they can incorporate, but since you have already started it, like you started with that thing, and I believe it must be really helping your brand and how the consumers are perceiving your brand. So what are those one or two things that you would like to share about how an existing business can bring technology or use technology to make their business sustainable in the long run?
Sure. So I think there's kind of two parts to it, right? One is our core belief as a business is that the future of the fashion industry, the future of accessories is really going to be based on a foundational shift in how the supply chain works. It's not an incremental shift. We're not talking about, oh, let's use the same, engine and pour, a different fuel into the engine and the fuel is like sustainable fuel and suddenly like this engine is like dramatically more sustainable. That's not how it works.
Mhm.
And frankly that's a challenge that a lot of companies face, right? Which
Yeah.
is that they have tremendous capex investments in the supply chain, the way things work today,
Mhm.
and to become sustainable is not as simple as, oh, now we use an organic material, we're
Mhm.
sustainable. That's actually not how it works, because that's when you add it all up, what it means to be sustainable, you're not actually much more sustainable when you do something like that. In fact, you might even be less sustainable, because by switching over to an organic fabric, for example, I'm just making this up, you actually may be generating more CO2 waste than you were using
Hmm.
material that is not organic. That's not, in our view, the way in which true sustainability is achieved.
Uh,
It's frankly a gut renovation of the entire supply chain that results in sustainability. For us, what that means is we've aligned our business objectives with
mhm.
our sustainability objectives. This
Uh,
is not to say that we built a business
mhm.
and then we said, oh, how do we make it sustainable? Let's do this, this, and this, and now our business is sustainable. That's not how our business is built. The way our business is built is we lose money if we make a product that doesn't get sold. It's
Mhm.
that simple.
Uh-huh.
Make it, each product we make costs us 10 times as much as it costs a traditional eyewear company to make it. But because of our business model,
Mhm.
right, that's okay, because we don't have inventory, we don't have warehousing.
Mhm.
We remove all of these elements within a traditional fashion and accessories business model
Mhm.
that, in our view, is inherently unnecessary,
Okay.
because it's inherently not actually delivering value to the end consumer.
Mhm.
What it's doing is it's creating business complexity that, with advanced production technology
Mhm.
and advanced, basically an advanced logistics system that's digitalized entirely, you
Mhm.
don't need. So for us, what that means is when you place an order as a customer, you're creating a pull in our supply chain. We're
Mhm.
not pushing a product onto you. You're pulling a product out of our supply chain that's been created for you.
Uh,
And this is powerful because not only does it mean, for example, that we don't produce waste when we make a product,
mhm.
it means we don't make a product that nobody buys. And as
Mhm.
a result of that, for
Mhm.
us to be carbon neutral is incredibly easy, because
Right.
we don't have excess activities in our supply chain that
Mhm.
are producing carbon dioxide
Mhm.
that are unnecessary. And
Mhm.
so, for example, we are zero impact across the board. So that's waste, that's carbon dioxide, That's every single environmental factor that you could imagine. And that's not only at our, like, you know, the front of the business, that's the entire supply chain, going back to, you know, how literally the, you know, the raw material powder that's made, that's, you know, using laser technology turned into the end product that we make. That includes everything from cradle to the grave, right? And so when an existing business, to answer your question, right, when an existing business wants to engage in a serious conversation around sustainability, the honest answer is that you need to take a hard look at the way you do business today, and you need to be willing to engage in a serious, meaningful conversation about how you're going to change the way you do business. If, you know, you talk about, oh, like, let's do a little bit of this and, you know, add this little thing on top or add that little thing on top, that's not sustainability. That's marketing. And that's fine. You know, that's great. I think that, you know, it's good to build awareness, and I think it's good for consumers to become educated. But my like, you know, approach and my standpoint on this is if you're doing sustainability as a meaningful goal that actually is supposed to make a difference, you've got to be willing to change the way you do things, not look for an easy way out. And I've had these conversations. There's lots and lots of companies out there that, you know, don't want to engage in that because it's hard. It's not that I think anybody has, you know, an intention against it. It's just really, really difficult. And so I think what it means is that brands need to take a stand, right, around who they are and what they believe in. And they need to be willing to make meaningful changes. In our experience, what we found is that there are, you know, very powerful brands, whether they're individuals, like you know, today influencers are brands if they're big enough, right, in and of themselves. And there are people who, when you explain to them the biggest challenge that the fashion industry has today, right, which in our view, and there's, like, you know, unfortunately not enough data on this, it's the problem of pre-consumer waste, right? It is the problem of all the waste that's being created in supply chains that is ultimately not delivering value to the end consumer. When you engage in that conversation with brands, and you engage in that conversation with people of influence, Paula Debao is a great example, right? They see the world of fashion, and they see the world you know, of supply chains when it comes to the products that they consume in a very, very different light.
So you have you need to have a very strong objective if like a business has to really kind of get into that mode of because it cannot be externally brought. It's kind of improving the things right from the very beginning. It has to be like finding that balance right from the very beginning. So that's a great point that you shared there. Amazing. Jodie, I wanted to touch upon this point of the culture that when you started this business and you are growing this business, and as you grow your team and as you are working with different stakeholders across US, across China, different teams, different cultures, how do you find the balance? How do you kind of make sure that everything runs smoothly?
The company takes a very, very strong position on culture. And we believe that each person that's part of the team is part of the family, right? We believe in a management by all philosophy. There is no one that isn't allowed to partake in a meeting, partake in a conversation. We welcome every different level. We cross our channels as much as possible. And we really try to communicate with our team members, whether they're in Canada, whether they're in China, whether they're here in the US. To me, it's not just about buying a piece of clothing, right? You know, it's about the people behind it, and it's about your relationships. And I feel it's really important. I think that if you don't embrace everyone with the same respect, then, you know, how do you move forward? Everybody, it's like everybody should have the same mindset. You want people to feel differently and have different opinions,
Yeah,
but at the end of the day, there's a common goal.
correct.
So our company feels very strongly about the culture. I try very hard to work closely with our China team,
Mm-hmm.
and I try to include different levels of employees within the organization,
Mm-hmm.
because you never know. You know, sometimes you're looking at something and it's your responsibility, and you could be looking at it for, you know, a week and you can't quite figure out that one piece of it.
Yeah.
But when you open it up to someone else, maybe they see something. So I think a management by all philosophy, especially in today's times, really has allowed us to be very successful.
So you really have kind of built the culture in such a manner that every stakeholder within the team or external teams is kind of goal for your business,
Yeah.
which is commendable. I
Yes.
believe that's what creates value, and that's what then reflects across the brand. I mean, the consumers can feel it when they see that right from the very beginning till the end. If they can perceive it, just like in case of, for example, businesses which has a very strong vision. For example, recently, how Apple is taking like a great step to kind of bring in diversity, or different companies are taking
Mm-hmm.
different approaches. And I believe so a company like yours, which is working across so many different geographies and kind of striking that balance is difficult, but I think that's a great point that you are kind of you're touched upon. So much to kind of embrace, and I think having that conversation with your internal stakeholders and team
Yeah.
members, kind of bringing additional ideas to the business.
I think it's really important. One of the other things that we do to keep the culture very fresh. So the company is made up of different channels,
Yeah,
and we have our branded channel, which is 525 America, which is, you know, in our boutiques, and it's on a lot of online partners such as a Revolve and a Shop Op, Rent the Runway.
yeah.
Um, the company is also a very successful partner with Walmart.
Hmm.
The company is a very successful partner in the discount chain, and we have design teams that work in all of these different channels.
Oh,
And we call it cross-pollinating, but we get together and we brainstorm, if not
yeah.
once a week, twice a week, and we share our ideas, because it's interesting when Sahir talks about sustainability. Walmart is actually a very, very, they're probably one of the pioneers in our company. They are pushing, and I don't know the exact year, but they do have a goal to be that their clothing will be sustainable by a certain year. So
Hmm.
they are actually the ones where Zahir is pushing from the manufacturing side. They're pushing us from the retail side to say, hey, wait a minute,
Yeah,
let's take a moment and let's see how we can move this product to more sustainability. So
right.
I totally understand what you're saying, and to me, it's everybody coming together and working towards that goal. So I do agree with so much that you're saying, and it's interesting to hear it on your side, where we're feeling it from the top
Yeah.
starting to trickle down.
Absolutely. And I believe just imagine the impact this can have in the long run as
Mm-hmm.
major brands, and like, because uh, the big brands kind of are leaders and they drive
Mm-hmm.
innovation, and I think then people embrace it quite easily. So I think that's happening, which is great and excellent. I would like to now move to a next set of discussion, which is you already establish your business and you have your target audience. Uh, how do you kind of define your potential or the persona of your buyer? Who who is your potential buyer, and how do you engage with them currently? Maybe I can ask with Sahir to begin with.
Sure. So I mean, I think there's two levels again at which you can think about this question, right? One is
Yeah,
the generic question of like, what's a conceptual framework behind how you think about who your buyer is,
yeah,
and you know, how do you then have the touch points at which you're meeting that buyer and engaging with them, right? So,
yeah.
um, I mean, I think that for most businesses, it's just about being honest about what you stand for and who you are, and finding people who authentically can connect with and engage with that, right? And I think like we talk so much about influencer marketing. I think there's great things about it. I think there's terrible things about it, but it's definitely an example of where, when it's done right, you know, you're basically finding those people who are leaders within the communities that you're looking to engage in the product that you're buying, and they can educate their audiences, they can educate other people who may not be in their audience but who listen to them, and they can serve as, you know, powerful ways of you know, being almost like a super persona, right? Like they are embodying a lot of the things that you're looking for in your end customer. And for example, in our case, when it comes to, you know, believing in zero waste, a future that's truly zero waste, right? It's something that we've engaged in, and looking for those people who can be icons of the future, and icons in the minds of consumers when it comes to leading the way, right? That's something that we have done. I guess the second is, and connected to that, is like, you know, in our, is the specific example of how have we gone about it, right? How have we gone about defining our users and defining the personas of the people that we would like to engage? It's exactly that. We're looking for people who understand complicated things. You know, not all consumers are interested in engaging in a deep conversation around the products that they buy. They're not all interested in, you know, frankly, being thoughtful. They like the idea when it's packaged nicely and served to them nicely, but a lot of them are not interested in getting into the depths. But then there are those who are interested. There are those who will, you know, spend tons of time reading about a concept that they're interested in and understanding it and owning it. And in our experience, it's been users who have a certain level of you know, of depth in their purchasing behavior and how they approach the brands that they consume, that have resonated best with the products that we are creating. And the other side is, and we haven't touched much about on this, but like for us, creating beautiful technology driven experiences is such a critical part to achieving a zero waste future, right? It's like, how do you convert augmented reality into a very powerful tool so that you can minimize things like inventory, where you're actually engaging with your consumer around technology? And so in our case, people who are, you know, very comfortable with technology, who think that technology is, you know, a value add to the world, they are also the types of people who like to engage with us, because that's what our experience is based on. If you see our app and you know, see the experience of scanning your face and seeing a pair of eyewear that's like perfectly created and crafted to your facial structure, that's like a very cool experience. And so and what you find is there's overlap between these groups: people who are thoughtful, people who are interested in how technology is going to make the world a better place. And that's been our experience around the kinds of people that we're looking for. And they're champions, right? They're not just, they're the consumers, but they're telling their friends about it. They are coming to us with ideas on what like we could be doing. In some cases, it's literally been like a way towards finding business partnerships. Where someone's like, oh, I know this you know, brand, and they really like believe in a lot of the things that you guys are doing, and they're not sure how to do it, and it could be cool for you to have a conversation with them. So that's been our experience, and also I guess my view on the conceptual framework towards how user personas
quite deep. I must say. So I think, yeah, it's basically like a learning curve that consumers have, and yes, but I think now the brands, the way you have positioned your brand, and I think the way the story is being conveyed, yes, people's attention spans have become smaller and smaller, and I believe, but with the right target audience, so you already know who are the end consumers, and I think you are weaving those stories which kind of spread around. And I think the consumers who have already purchased something from you, they become your ambassadors. They become the kind of influencers. I think they may not be an actual influencer, but the one or two people that they influence within their family or society, I think that's going to have a very good ripple effect that can percolate towards achieving that end objective. Excellent. Jody, I think in your case also, you must have like an ideal buyer persona, and you
Mhm.
have a very thoughtful product line, which kind of which you already thought of for the end consumer. So, who is your typical target audience? Like if you can define buyer persona for you.
So we look at our audience in two ways,
Hmm.
actually three ways. We look at her first and foremost, we want her to be multi-generational.
Wow. Hmm.
We want her to be the daughter,
Yeah.
the mother, maybe even the grandmother, depending.
Hmm.
So that's our foundation.
Yeah.
And then we have our buyers
Hmm.
that, it's the step before it gets to the consumer. And they are obviously at times tougher than the actual consumer. So it's really listening to their needs,
Wow.
listening to where the white space is,
Hmm.
right? Looking at a product and saying, what can I do to attract someone
Yeah.
to really make them see? And it all goes back to, a level of expectation of what the product is. And we did a lot of analysis over the past couple of years when you talked about like rebranding and how our brand was kind of going it wasn't going down, but you go through ebbs and flows, and we were saying, okay, what's happening in the industry? What are we missing? Where is that white space? And
Mhm.
we found that we really went back to our roots, and we sat with our buyers, and we really tried to listen to them. What is it that your consumer wants?
Mhm.
How much is she willing to spend for an item that she is going to have for several years? And
Okay.
to me, the end consumer has embraced what we've done.
Wow.
We give her a great product. We give her a little bit of fashion without going over the top.
Yeah.
Find that she comes back. Our return
Mhm.
customer, our return rate is really, every season continues to grow. And that to us is validation for how we've been understanding the customer and listening to exactly who she is and what she wants.
Wow.
So we really try for considering us a larger brand, we try to keep it very intimate.
Mhm.
And I think that's also been part of our success. I think when you lose focus and you
Mhm.
become too big and you forget about where it all started,
Yeah.
is when you kind of start to fall off. So as long as we keep our eye and our ears open to our customers,
Mhm.
from the beginning to the buyer to the end consumer, it
Mhm.
has definitely proven to be the right path for us.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So you keep your customers like they are the epicenter. I mean, everything
Hmm.
revolves around them, and you are listening to them. You are understanding their sentiments, and you're kind of translating that their experiences into your product so that it kind of resonates. Basically, people buy things in which it kind of resonates. Typically, uh, when a person sees an ad and sees a brand name, it's all about that brand recall that
Hmm.
drives engagement, and that drives how the consumer, when exactly the consumer is going to make their purchase. There are consumers which are constantly kind of perceiving the brand and seeing how the brand is doing, and then they go for their first purchase. Some are impulsive buyers. Some are kind of okay, they know the things and then they go ahead and purchase. So but what you touched upon, listening to your consumers, and they can give you great insights. I believe that that's an amazing point that you touched there. uh, I would like to ask this next question to both of you, which is today's time is extremely challenging. I mean, and it's gonna be there. This time is a turbulent time, and we all have to find creative ways and means to connect with the consumers. So, apart from your online presence and the way consumers are kind of buying from you, how do you make sure that the consumers that you have already acquired, how can you retain them? What is your retention strategy? I know your return rate, like the consumers who are returning, is extremely high constantly. but still there can be kind of churn that you will see. So what is your strategy? What is that one or two things marketing team works constantly so that you're constantly able to retain your, what is that one or two point that you would like to share? Yeah, Jody.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So that's actually a very, very valid question, because again, we have our own e-commerce site as
Yeah.
well as online partners and our boutiques. And we really try to see the pattern, if there was a different pattern over these past 5 months, and what was she looking for, and how many times was she coming back, and was she really only buying a sale item, or was she looking at something, putting it in her cart and leaving.
Mm-hmm.
And we tried to be very creative. We sent out personal notes.
Mm-hmm.
We looked back at our consumers that purchased over the past 12 months, and we sent them personal notes. We sent out, some type of incentive. But to me, it's really just trying to understand what she's looking for,
Yeah.
and trying to understand what she's willing to spend.
Mm-hmm.
I think that when you look at some of the businesses that have not been able to survive, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you look
Mm-hmm.
at some of the bigger stores that haven't been able to survive, unfortunately, during this time,
True.
and you look at the ones that have survived,
Yes.
whether it's their online presence, whether it's the outreach, whether it's, just the human touch that they've had, I very much feel that we have been able to keep our customer, because we keep it so intimate
Wonderful.
in the big scheme of things. And
Correct.
even when it comes to our online partners and our boutiques, we really tried to be there for the consumer and
Mm-hmm.
for the retail owner during this time, whether it was, everybody's so quick to just send a text or send an email or DM on Instagram, but
Yes.
we took the time to have Zoom appointments with our customers, even if it was just to say, hey, how are you doing? What's going on?
Yeah.
How's the morale today?
Yeah.
Or picking up the phone. I think that we've lost a little bit of that human touch, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe this time has given us that opportunity to come back to it.
Wonderful.
So we've really embraced that, and I think that's helped us keep our buyers and our consumers coming back to us.
Wow, that's amazing. I think, yeah, the world. I mean, that's what the consumers are looking for. They need empathy. I mean, they are the ones who are uh, they are perceiving the brand. I mean, they are not just buying, because there are brands which really pay very close attention to this aspect, and that's why the consumers love it, and that's how the brands are getting extremely high retention rate,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how the brands can actually kind of have the best customer lifetime value. Just like in case of, for example, if we take the biggest example, Amazon, like it
Mm-hmm.
has become like a lifestyle, or probably you can say a habit, that okay, they have excelled on customer service, and they manage to have that personalization experience within by using every possible technology, the logistics or the prime delivery, and all those small improvements, process improvements that they have done within their business is ultimately helping the consumers, which is. And what you touched upon, these points where you get in touch with your consumers and you write notes,
Mm-hmm.
that's what really the consumers may not say that, oh, this letter from this brand, may go ahead and tell five of their family, and that's how that impact effect kind of translates in the long run. Sahir, when you mentioned earlier that you kind of build this technology and you have like a file patent for, amazing, and I believe so you are like a leader in this space, and how do you see other brands we have who are already in this eyewear space? Do you think they can adopt to these kind of technologies that you have built? I mean, do you think, are you planning to kind of make this technology of yours available to in the industry?
Yeah, so I think that um, this kind of goes to my core philosophy around, what I'm doing, why we're doing it,
Yeah,
and the change that we hope to bring about through it,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
It's that there has to be scale,
yeah,
and
Mhm.
um, it has to be at a platform level. So
yes,
when I say that what we're building is a platform that changes the way we conceptualize, design, and produce the products we buy,
yeah,
that platform needs to be something that is, available
yeah,
to people, businesses, brands that are
yeah,
willing to engage and serious about engaging, right?
correct. Yeah,
And so, in my mind, there is uh, different ways in which different businesses can even work with us
mm-hmm.
to change the way that they are currently doing business, to help them move to a future in which they can also have a zero waste supply chain, which I think a
Mm-hmm.
lot of businesses, especially in the context of COVID and in the context of the hard decisions that businesses have to make right now
Yeah,
around their supply chains, it's something that makes sense for people,
mm-hmm.
right? It's like, this is your opportunity to almost to zero base, right? And say,
Yeah,
hey, we've been doing things a certain way up till now, and
yeah.
now everything is different.
True, true, true.
And not, and everything is different in this ominous scary way, but everything is different in the sense that you know people's behavior is changing,
Yeah,
people's sensibilities are changing. You
yeah,
as a business have an opportunity to build new partnerships that can lead to the next chapter of what your business is. And
correct.
this is a chance to take a stand as
True.
well, which consumers want to see brands making. They want to see businesses taking a stand,
Yeah,
and making those partnerships that they are serious about. uh, so that's my philosophy on this,
amazing.
right? Which
Okay.
is that I view a lot of what we do under our own umbrella as
True.
being a showcase to
Yeah,
other businesses as well of what they could maybe do if they worked with us.
true.
And for me, success is only in the in the scale of the platform, and
True.
in the scale and robustness of what we're doing,
Yeah,
where you've transformed the way that supply chains work for most consumers,
yeah,
not for just one consumer. And the other thing, and I'm sure Jodie agrees with this, is that people like brands, right? That's
Mhm.
great, that's good. There's different consumers who like different brands. They stand for different things,
yeah,
and they have a different sense of closeness for different reasons. And
yeah.
that's how human nature works.
True.
And so our hope is that the zero waste future that we're building, the zero waste supply chain, it's not for one type of person, it's
Mm-hmm.
for everyone,
Yeah,
right? This is not about only appealing to a consumer who's exceptionally sustainability conscious. It's just saying, hey, this is a better way of doing things.
true.
And
Yeah,
for everyone, it's a better way.
yeah,
And we would hope that the same way that today, for example, you talk about having humane labor practices, that's table stakes, right? That's
yeah,
not something
Right.
that a brand can be like, oh, I'm different because we have humane labor practices. That sounds ridiculous. I mean, unfortunately, that might be true even today, but broadly speaking, that's like
yeah,
an expectation.
yeah,
What our what we see happening in the future is that having a supply chain that's not producing unnecessary waste, being thoughtful around how your business is not creating excess greenhouse gases, not contributing to climate change, that's table stakes.
mm,
Because if you think about the next generation, people who are, I'm Gen Z is one thing, but think about the 5-year-olds today, right? I have a
Mhm.
niece who's 4 years old. What is the world going to look like when
mm-hmm.
they are older?
Yeah,
And that world is going to be entirely informed by decisions that are made today.
correct.
And for us, being in a leadership position in driving a zero waste future
Yeah,
is about also working with other businesses so that they can, help we can help them get there.
yeah,
And and they can help us make that scale impact that we're hoping to make, and not just, you know, a niche impact. And so that's kind of how I think about it.
Wonderful. I mean, it's true. I mean, in every context, if we take it, like just like when Tesla started, like
Mm-hmm.
few years back, nobody like an electric car and produce it at scale. They somehow managed to just keep moving forward and pushing the envelope. And now they're at a stage where they are the pioneers and the world is embracing them. The companies are embracing them. So what you touched upon is really true. And I believe, I think if your platform become accessible and the technology that you have built become accessible, I think because you have spent enormous amount of time in building that, and there's a learning curve to it. So I think more and more, as you get more and more partners and companies on board, that's going to have a large impact in the long run. So I believe you just made a beginning, and I think down the road, there's several things that can happen. And I believe we have to think for the to come, and which I think you really are touching that point right now in 2020. So amazing. I'm really happy that we discussed upon this point, typically, which kind of is most of the time theoretical, but you are making sure that the feasibility aspect is kind of touched upon. So excellent point there. Jody, I would like to ask this next question to you, which is
Mm-hmm.
around you have an established brand and you already know your buyer persona and you already are generating a lot of data points around your consumers, like with so many products across so many categories, collections, and
Mm-hmm.
you know about your consumers really well. But how do you think like the role of data is? Like, are you making data driven decisions, or how do you do segmentation of your consumers? Do you understand the behavior of consumers level? For example, like how is their recency of purchase, or what is their browsing recency, or how many times did they purchase? These are typical things, but combining them, like the recency, frequency, monetary aspects of an individual consumer. What do you think of the behavioral segmentation aspect? Because we at Enalito have actually kind of deep dived into this aspect and realized that 20% of your like consumers give 80% of your revenue.
Mm-hmm.
And there are set of customers, and the customer's behavior is dynamic. It's changing over a period of time. And the only way we can retain is by making sure that we are able to engage them at different stages of their life cycle, from a
Mm-hmm.
visitor to a subscriber, then to a subscriber, then to account creator. So there are different stages. And then those first time consumers become the champion of your brand. They become your ambassadors. So how do you see customer segmentation from the brand perspective?
So we look at it, we we as a brand are not as data driven as I would like us to be yet.
Mm-hmm.
We're getting there. However,
Yeah.
some of our partners are very data driven and
Mm-hmm.
share the information with us, and it's
Mm-hmm.
very interesting. Your point is very valid, that it's 20% of the buyer is 80% of the
Right.
revenue. What we have found is that we want her to be multi-generational, right?
True.
We want that Gen Z to look at her mom and go, you know what, my mom kind of looks cool in that sweater today.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would have worn it a year or two ago, but then
Yeah.
she sees us, she checks
Mm-hmm.
out our e-com site, she checks out some of the online partners,
Yeah.
and we have found that, you know, the younger consumer is the one that's truly buying online, right?
Mm-hmm.
She's
Yeah.
buying from the sites that she knows she can get free shipping. We've been
Yes.
able to really, we've been able to track data to see what she's buying, what yarns she's comfortable buying, you
Mm-hmm.
know, where her price point is.
Yeah.
Whereas we find that that next generation is
Mm.
still going into a brick and mortar store.
True.
And it is very interesting to watch that type of data. So where so many brands are moving forward and it's all direct to consumer, and they feel that, you know, does the brick and mortar matter? Our data has shown us that, you know, depending on the age of the customer, she is still walking into an actual store. She still wants that experience. So we work with an agency that helps us with our e-com site, but like I said, our online partners are very gracious and share amazing data with us, and it has allowed us to pivot to where the customer needs to be, right? Like, what should we be concentrating on to see online? What should we be concentrating on more so for our brick and mortar stores? So I do think that, you know, the more data we could get, the more knowledgeable we are. The interesting thing during this time, and maybe because everyone is home, right, regardless of where you are in the world, is we've been able to collect a little more data from our consumers, because she is taking the time to open maybe that extra email, and maybe at the end of that email we put a little survey that she wouldn't have had the time to do if she was shopping someplace else. Right. So that's actually been a little eye-opening, that our surveys that we've included in our customer outreach, we've had a higher return rate, a higher open rate, a higher completion rate, and a higher return rate to get information from them. Wow. So that's been an interesting point that's come out of all of this. And everybody's in front of their computers no matter where they are, right? No matter where you are in your house, everybody's connected, whether it's like this or you're on your phone. So
that's true. That's true. I think, so I think, that's a great point that you touched. I mean, kind of understanding consumers. So sometimes we already, by gut feeling, we know, sometimes it's by data, but some asking those questions in a survey, and those one or two typical questions that most consumers may have never answered when they go to an offline store, because they're busy purchasing the stuff there. But in an online world, where now that they have time, they can respond back, and I think the brands are really can get great insights, that points that consumers, how they're looking at, or the one review that they have never given on a particular product, that can typically come from times like this. And because I believe consumers perceive brand through other consumers' eyes, and when they look at more reviews, they automatically tend to connect with it, and they are more aware. And I believe most consumers are, because of the information that is accessible now, they can compare, they can read reviews, they can see ratings, and within 5 seconds they decide whether they are going to stay for the next 10, whether they are going to stay for the next 15. Because when we were kind of working on this technology that we built, we kind of understood that a lot of brands are spending huge amount of money on driving consumers to their store, but people are not going beyond the homepage, or people are not going beyond a particular collection page because of the number of products there are, or because of the experience. And people kind of lose context of what they're buying or what they are thinking of, what they came for. They kind of get lost in the whole process. And that's where we kind of build this whole personalization aspect, where we understand the way the consumers are looking at products, and then always making sure that having an intelligence within the store to help the consumers in finding the right products, to make it contextual. We are helping the consumers in making sure that they find the right product at the right time, and the same product can then reach their inbox in the least possible time. That's how we believe consumers are perceiving things. And it's like a holistic experience. Consumers are not looking at things in silos, they're looking at things. So they may be doing some browsing on their desktop and go ahead and make their purchase on their smartphone, or vice versa, or they have an additional tablet. So they're constantly switching between different devices, and the whole experience matters, so that the final checkout can be super simple. Great. While we are at the last last 4 minutes of our panel discussion, I would like to ask this one question to both Jody and Sahir. Is what is that one piece of advice or one piece of that you would like to share with your fellow entrepreneurs or people who want to enter into a fashion business? So, what is that one learning or advice that you want to give them? I would like to start with Jody.
So to me, our business is all about passion, right?
Mhm.
To me, you have to be passionate about what you're doing
Yeah.
regardless. But to me, I think fashion, I think there's something about being passionate about it. You know, recently I was talking with a senior in college, and she is studying fashion as her major,
Wow.
and she was asking me if it was hopeless that she would be able to find a job, and what was she, you know, what was she going to do after 4 years at a very prestigious university, and you know,
Mhm.
what did I think? And I said to her that it's all about the passion, right? You're focused, and it's about the passion that you have, and if you truly believe in something,
Yes.
it's really important for you to not let anyone, you know, muddy the waters.
Yeah.
So I feel very, very fortunate that I've been able to follow my passion, and I think it's something that everybody should be able to follow.
Wonderful. Excellent advice. Thank you. Sahir, one piece of advice from you.
Yeah. So I think like I'm gonna take what Jody said as a starting kind of platform to kind of add to that. I think that in like being passionate and then finding champions is
Mm.
the one thing that
Mm.
I would strongly advise people to look for. Uh, in my view, regardless of what they're doing. But
Yeah.
I think especially when you're talking about industries and businesses that are consumer facing,
Yes.
I think that having vocal champions who
Yes.
believe in what you're doing and believe in it in to the point that when you speak to these champions, you feel like they own what either an entrepreneur is doing or business is doing.
Mm.
They own it themselves, and
Yeah.
finding a few people, and that's the important thing. I don't think it's about it's not really about the breadth. It's almost more about the depth over
Mm.
here,
Correct.
and finding those few people early on, and then as you grow, continuing to find those people who truly believe in
Yeah.
what you're doing, who will open doors for you, who will support you when things are challenging, because
Yeah.
they believe in what you're doing, right? They're not
Mm.
involved in like a tactical way in your objectives. They're actually involved in the sense that they're vested in your success. Highly,
Yeah.
highly recommend that people think a lot about this, especially when they're earlier in their careers, because those are the people that will make a defining difference in their lives, and that's, I think, very, very important.
Well said.
Well said. Absolutely.
Thank you.
And wow, that's like a great insight as well as like that's a great advice that you shared there. And I must say, this has been an excellent panel discussion today. And both of you have been kind enough to share all of your learnings and opening up and sharing it freely because I believe these are the times where we have to have this empathy and sharing and less caring because now the world more than ever has changed, and these are the times where the knowledge that one can share with the community is going to bring back the rewards in the long run, is going to find its way back to us. I must say, uh, I am really touched with all the points that you have shared. And while we are coming to an end of this panel discussion, I must say, Jody, the advice that you have given, finding your passion and striking the balance between all the stakeholders
Mm.
is the key of building a great brand, having that purpose and vision and how it translates into helping the end consumers. Thank you so much for taking out time today and joining this panel discussion.
Yeah,
Sahir,
thank you.
I must say you are the leader in this field, and I believe you are like the Tesla of in this field. I must say because everything starts, and I believe maybe in the long run, a lot of brands are going to come to you for learning this because it's not easy. It's saying is easy, but you are actually doing it. So that's commendable. And I think the kind of learnings that you can share with all these brands who can learn from you is going to have a very, very big impact because as an industry, the industry is trying to evolve and kind of reach there where they care for the planet and they think about the next generation. So I think you what you're doing is really, really kind of in that direction, and I hope a lot more brands can learn from you. With this, I would really like to say thank you once again and look forward to learning a lot from you. We'll be sharing this panel discussion link on our social media channels soon once the link is available. And let's keep talking. Let's keep on sharing this valuable insight because just like if we just focus on sustainable development or sustainable manufacturing, that itself becomes a big topic in itself for a big panel discussion itself. And I believe you kind of gave us that idea of what could be the future topics that we need to touch upon for the retail industry. So great, wonderful. Thank you so much, and
Thank you
have
very
a
much.
good day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jodie. Thank you, Sahir.
Take care.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
It was really nice to meet you, Jodie.
Nice to meet you as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.